Let's explore these mysteries together in today's video. How the Egyptian pyramids were built. Recent advances in decoding the construction techniques of Egypt's pyramids have come through a blend of archaeology and modern experiments. Drawing from ancient murals found in the tombs of Egyptian officials, a team of physicists closely examined scenes showing hundreds of workers hauling giant statues on sledges, with others pouring water onto the sand ahead of the sledge's path. Modern experiments have confirmed that wetting the sand alters its physical properties and reduces friction for sledges or massive stones. When the right amount of water is added, sand particles cling together, forming a firm base that avoids sinking, making it possible to move enormous materials with a limited workforce. Physics experiments show that the force required to drag a heavy stone over dry sand is double that needed for damp sand. This simple technique not only conserved labor but also minimized accidents caused by sinking or stuck sledges on the desert. In this way, the ancient Egyptians could move tens of tons of building materials from quarry to site without advanced technology. Analysis of archaeological evidence, murals, and experimental simulations reveals that controlling friction with water was one of the key solutions enabling large-scale projects like the Giza pyramids to be completed. This finding offers a reasonable explanation for a puzzle that has lasted thousands of years: how the Egyptians built such massive stone monuments with limited resources and technology, illustrating the union of practical knowledge and innovation in ancient society. The secret of Anne Boleyn's prayer book. The discovery of Anne Boleyn's prayer book, the second wife of King Henry VIII, has opened a new perspective on the history of 16th century England. Once thought to be lost forever or merely a product of legend, the book was finally identified by researchers at the University of Kent through ultraviolet light analysis. This method revealed names and inscriptions that had once been written on its pages, shedding light on how the book was secretly preserved through generations. Just before her execution in 1536, Anne Boleyn is believed to have entrusted this small prayer book to one of her closest confidants among the court's noblewomen. In a climate of political intrigue and danger, when any link to Anne could be deemed treasonous, the book was quietly passed from one loyalist to another. Each custodian left their own subtle mark, either by signing their name or writing a discreet note in the margins. In this way, the prayer book became more than a token of loyalty. It became a silent witness to a hidden network that bound members of the English nobility together during times of upheaval. Ultraviolet analysis enabled historians to identify several noble families who safeguarded the book, including those with deep ties to the Boleyns and influential figures in Queen Elizabeth I's court. The fact that the book survived across so many generations, only re-emerging after the end of Henry VIII's reign, highlights the importance of personal artifacts in preserving and protecting historical memory. This research has shown that Anne Boleyn's prayer book is more than a religious object. It is a testament to loyalty, social connection, and the resilience of the English nobility in the face of political power. By applying modern technology, researchers have illuminated hidden details, contributing vital evidence to our understanding of the Tudor era and Anne Boleyn's place in England's turbulent social landscape. A bar at the end of the earth. Tucked beneath the simple wooden roofs of Antarctica, Club 90 South Bar stands as a testament to humanity's need for community, even in the harshest environments. Here, scientists from around the globe and from every field momentarily set aside their research to share daily life through conversations and small parties, often accompanied by a glass of homemade spirits. No individual or organization claims ownership of the bar. Supplies and little gifts are contributed and shared by research teams. This spirit of volunteerism and openness among strangers creates a unique community, helping scientists overcome the isolation and challenges of the long Antarctic winter. In this place, barriers of nationality or age seem to melt away, united by a common bond with the frozen continent. Club 90 South Bar, along with similar improvised bars at nearly 50 research stations across Antarctica, has become a vital part of life at the end of the world. More than just places for entertainment, these social spaces support mental health and foster international collaboration. Amid the ever-present cold, every story and laugh shared at the bar adds warmth to an otherwise austere research environment. Over the decades, Antarctica's bars have reflected the deeply human side of science, a reminder that progress depends not only on advanced technology, but also on solidarity and adaptability in the face of extreme nature. Baba Vanga's prophecy and the frozen virus. Within the field of ancient microbiology, discoveries of viruses and bacteria preserved for tens of thousands of years in Siberian permafrost are drawing increasing global scientific attention. This phenomenon expands our understanding of life's resilience in extreme environments, but also raises real questions about biosecurity as the ice melts more rapidly due to climate change. In this context, a prophecy attributed to Baba Vanga, the blind seer of the Balkans, has stirred debate. According to legend, she predicted that an ancient virus would be discovered in Siberia, capable of sparking a pandemic once released by thawing permafrost. In recent years, international research teams have indeed reported successful revival of ancient viruses frozen for tens of thousands of years. For example, Professor Jean-Michel Clavery's team in France resurrected a giant virus estimated at 48,500 years old, extracted from the icy ground beneath a lake in Yakutia. Although this particular virus cannot infect humans, its survival has demonstrated the potential for pathogens to persist in frozen environments, fueling concern over the emergence of entirely new strains or the return of ancient diseases long vanished from the modern world. Such risks are even more significant when scientists acknowledge that permafrost thaw, driven by climate change in Siberia and other regions, not only releases greenhouse gases like methane, but also carries the threat of reawakening dangerous prehistoric viruses. These may include pathogens that once caused major epidemics, such as smallpox, or genetic variants entirely unfamiliar to us. Experimental data indicate that many viruses retain their ability to infect after millennia trapped in ice, meaning that any geological disruption could trigger uncontrolled biological events. Baba Vanga's prophecy now sits at the intersection of instinctive fear and modern scientific analysis. Even in the absence of direct evidence linking predictions and actual events, the revival of ancient viruses from permafrost continues to command special attention from both scientists and the global community. In this light, warnings of a future pandemic are no longer just legend, they are a present concern requiring research and vigilant monitoring as the world faces changes in climate and Earth's natural cycles. The legendary sword Excalibur of France stolen. The sudden disappearance of the sword Durandal from its legendary resting place in the village of Rocamadour after more than 1,300 years has raised profound questions about the value of tangible heritage, the relationship between legend and real history, and the challenge of protecting cultural icons. Durandal is the sword associated with the name of Roland, a historical knight from the time of Charlemagne. According to legend, Roland drove the sword into the cliff before falling in battle, ensuring it would not be captured by his enemies. The sword became a symbol of strength and loyalty, perched for centuries more than 30 feet above the ground, near the Black Madonna Church of Rocamadour. For generations, Durandal has been regarded both as a priceless treasure and an object of fascination for historians and folklorists. The theft occurred in a context where the protection of heritage objects, especially those located outside traditional museums, remains limited. What stands out is the sword's highly inaccessible location, suggesting a carefully planned theft, perhaps involving individuals with deep knowledge of the terrain and symbolic value of the artifact. The event sent shockwaves through the local community and sparked widespread interest among archaeologists and history enthusiasts throughout Europe, particularly because Durandal is not just a legend. It is linked to historical accounts of Roland, a commander who fought on the Frankish border and died at the Battle of Roncesvalles in 778. The sword's disappearance has reignited questions about the boundary between myth and historical fact, as well as our responsibility to safeguard tangible symbols of cultural heritage. The theft of Durandal is a striking example of the risks faced by cultural relics outside museum walls. It underscores the need to strengthen preservation efforts and also challenges us to develop new approaches for artifacts tied to oral tradition and sacred spaces. As historical, archaeological, and legendary values become ever more integrated into public consciousness, the search for Durandal is not just a law enforcement effort, it is a collective goal in the ongoing mission to protect our heritage. The dancing skeleton. Beneath the cold earth of Siberia, archaeologists uncovered a remarkable grave. Within it lay the skeleton of a young man, his bones fixed in an unusual posture. His arms and legs were tightly bound, knees spread wide, and arms crossed over the pelvis altogether, suggesting a ritualistic dance never before described in any ancient texts. The presence of bindings, traces of rope, and a layer of white sand covering the grave created a unique case, opening up numerous theories about the spiritual beliefs and social role of this individual in his ancient community. Beyond the striking posture, scientists found several clues tied to the man's death and burial. Bronze arrowheads were placed near the hip bones and on the shoulders, not embedded in the bones, but ceremoniously arranged after death, signaling an organized farewell ritual where weapons served as offerings for the journey to the afterlife. Among the proposed theories, some suggest that the placement of the arrowheads points to a fatal wound in the pelvic artery, consistent with signs of severe blood loss. Yet, no direct evidence has confirmed this hypothesis. The cause of death remains uncertain, but the skeleton also reveals special insights into the society and beliefs of those who buried him. Anthropological analysis showed that he was about 30 years old, noticeably younger than most of the neighboring graves, which predominantly held the elderly. His bound posture, the deliberate deviation from traditional circular burial pits, and the imported white sand all reflect intentional choices with clear symbolic meaning. It's possible this ritual was meant to ward off evil spirits, or to ensure the dead man's soul could not escape unless his body was restrained. Another research avenue focuses on the possibility that this individual suffered from disease or skeletal deformity. The wide-set legs and limbs fixed in a contracted position may relate to chronic spasms or even infectious diseases like syphilis or tuberculosis, illnesses once common in ancient populations. The combination of burial artifacts and body placement has become a major puzzle for bioarchaeologists, with each detail revealing new layers of interpretation. At a deeper level, this discovery tells a story about ancient Siberian society. Surrounding graves held elderly individuals, arranged in familiar patterns, while the dancing skeleton lay alone in a separate rectangular pit, handled with special care. This suggests an individual of unique status or an exception within the community, hinting at social stratification or ritual privileges for select persons. Defensive structures found near the cemetery further point to a society once threatened by conflict or invasion, inspiring burial and worship practices aimed at protecting the spirits of the dead. Each finding related to the dancing skeleton adds new data to our understanding of medieval life in northern Eurasia, a land where the mysteries of ancient communities still lie buried, awaiting decoding in each bone and burial trace. The mystery of the Pan statue in a Christian church. During the excavation of an ancient Christian church in Istanbul, archaeologists stumbled upon a statue of Pan, the Greek god of the wild, deeply tied to forests and ancient polytheism. This find sparked intense debate about the historical and religious context of Europe's transition from antiquity to Christianity. The presence of a pagan statue in the foundations of a church is more than an archaeological coincidence. It reflects a historical reality, where older belief systems did not simply vanish but were either concealed or transformed within emerging communities. According to artifact analysis, the Pan statue dates to the 4th century AD, while the church above it was built in the 6th century, right at the turning point when Christianity gradually replaced polytheism around the Mediterranean. Some scholars believe burying the statue beneath the church was a deliberate act by those clinging to the old faith as society underwent religious transformation. This serves as evidence of cultural transition, not total rupture between two eras. This phenomenon also prompts a re-evaluation of Christianization in Europe as a complex process. Elements of old religion and art continued to survive, transformed in new forms, and influencing cultural identity and social consciousness for centuries. The discovery of Pan within a church thus broadens our understanding of the exchange and interplay between spiritual systems in human history. The Creator's Map. Toward the end of the 20th century, a team of archaeologists from Bashkir State University made a discovery that would ignite unprecedented debate in academic circles. They uncovered a massive stone slab known as the Dashka stone. The moment it was found, controversy erupted not just because of its extraordinary size, but because of the remarkable details carved deep into its surface. Almost immediately, some began to suspect it was a legacy of a civilization that lay far outside the bounds of recorded history. The slab stands taller than an average adult and stretches nearly as wide as two people standing arm to arm. Its thickness exceeds 15 centimeters, and it weighs close to a ton. What puzzled scientists was not just the unusual material made up of 3 distinct layers, but the features etched across its face. To the naked eye, this was no ordinary topographical map. The lines depicted mountain ranges, rivers, and an elaborate system of irrigation channels with a precision that defied ancient capabilities. Mysterious symbols, unlike any deciphered language, were also scattered across the stone. Teams of experts in cartography and geology joined forces to examine its authenticity. Based on geographical markers, much of the terrain depicted on the stone matched the present-day landscape of Bashkiria. The researchers were able to identify the Ufa River and local ravines. But more remarkably, by cross-referencing with modern satellite data, they found that certain canals and reservoirs were rendered with such accuracy that no known ancient technology could have observed or mapped them from ground level. This led some to propose that the stone's creators may have possessed a way to observe the land from above, or that their methods were far beyond anything imagined by today's science. The composition of the Dashka stone is equally mysterious. The outermost layer consists of dolomite mixed with cement and minerals, creating an incredibly hard and durable shell. Beneath that lies a sheet of silicon-infused diopside glass, which produces a soft, light-scattering effect. The innermost and thinnest layer is a blend of calcium and porcelain, protecting the surface from the effects of time. This type of material engineering has never been documented in any other artifact from the region and points to an astonishing level of technical mastery by its makers. The age of the Dashka stone remains the subject of the fiercest debate. Some specialists, based on microfossils embedded in the stone, estimate it could be as much as 120 million years old a time when the Earth's surface looked nothing like it does now. More conservative assessments, relying on chemical traces and erosion patterns, put the slab at roughly 3,000 years old. Either way, both estimates vastly exceed the known capabilities of any ancient civilization ever recorded in the area. Layer upon layer of geometric symbols, artificial canals, and cryptic characters remain unsolved. Many linguists suspect the symbols are a form of proto-pictographic writing, or possibly connected to early Chinese script, but so far no one has succeeded in unlocking the message the stone's creators intended to leave behind. All of this has only made the Dashka stone an even more peculiar link in the history of human consciousness. Some theorize that the Dashka stone is the product of a civilization with knowledge far ahead of its time, perhaps even related to the age-old legend of the creator's map sought by humanity for centuries. Others, however, argue that the lines are merely the result of natural cracks and the fertile imagination of those who study them. While the ultimate answer remains out of reach, the Dashka stone still lies undisturbed in the heart of the Urals, a silent challenge to every effort to unlock the secrets of a distant past. The discovery of a Roman wine shipwreck in the Mediterranean. The discovery of a Roman merchant ship loaded with wine at the bottom of the sea off the coast of Egypt provides concrete evidence of international trade between ancient European and African civilizations. Archaeologists surveying the area found large numbers of amphory ceramic vessels used to transport wine, a staple commodity in Mediterranean trade during Greek and Roman times. Through analysis of the amphora's shapes, sediment layers, and ship remains, scientists dated the vessel to the 3rd century BCE, a time when Egypt was a global hub of commerce. Merchants from across the Mediterranean regularly shipped wine, olive oil, and other agricultural products to Egypt's major ports before those goods moved deeper into Africa or in reverse. This finding also highlights the role of ancient Egyptian ports as more than just transfer points. They were crossroads where civilizations met. Products, techniques, and ideas could all spread along these trade routes, influencing the development of distant societies, such as the Garamantes of the Sahara. The shipwreck and its amphory are not only evidence of advanced shipbuilding, but also a window into the economic and cultural connections between far-flung lands. The wine shipwreck opens new paths for studying ancient trade networks and underlines the impact of commerce on the movement and transformation of civilizations around the Mediterranean basin. The Bash Map and Ice. Free Antarctica. The Bash Map, drawn by French geographer Philippe Boisch in 1739, long stirred controversy among scholars for its detailed depiction of the southernmost continent long before it was officially explored. The greatest surprise wasn't just its outline of Antarctica, but its renderings of mountain ranges, river systems, and terrain beneath the ice, features only confirmed centuries later with 20th century satellite mapping and ice-penetrating surveys. When modern scientists compared the Bash Map with radar data on Antarctica's subglacial landscape, they found remarkable points of alignment. Numerous theories have emerged, with some suggesting that Boisch accessed much older source material, possibly remnants of a civilization that existed before Antarctica was locked under ice. From a scientific perspective, it's possible Buash extrapolated the continent's shape from theories of continental balance and ocean distribution. But the accuracy of the map's mountains and rivers remains hard to explain. Another perspective argues that the Bash map is simply a synthesis of ancient records from both east and west, blending fact, conjecture, and imagination. Still, the existence of ice-free Antarctica maps, like those by Piri Reis and Buash, continues to inspire those who hypothesize about a time when the continent lay in warmer latitudes, hospitable to life, and perhaps civilization long since forgotten. The question remains, if the Bash map truly draws on ancient first-hand observations, what became of the civilization present when Antarctica was temperate? Unraveling this map's mystery goes beyond its own history. It touches on questions of geology, Earth's axis shifts, and the disappearance of cultures at the farthest southern reaches. Modern geological surveys and paleontological research in Antarctica continue to trace the prehistoric story hidden deep beneath millions of years of ice. The largest meteorite crater on Earth beneath Antarctic ice. Deep beneath nearly 2 kilometers of Antarctic ice lies evidence of one of the most significant events ever recorded in the history of life on Earth. Through gravity field analysis and seismic data collected from satellites, scientists have identified a colossal circular structure hidden under the ice in Wilkes Land, Antarctica. Spanning approximately 300 miles in diameter, this site, once thought to be nothing more than a frozen wasteland, has now been recognized by geologists as the largest known impact crater on the planet. Roughly 250 million years ago, a meteorite up to 10 kilometers wide slammed into Earth at tremendous speed. The impact unleashed energy millions of times greater than any human-made explosion, sending molten material and pulverized rock high into the atmosphere. The resulting clouds blanketed the sky, blocked sunlight, disrupted photosynthesis, and triggered a cascade of environmental changes lasting years. Layers of sediment and fossil records reveal the scale of devastation. Nearly 90% of marine species and 70% of land species went extinct in the wake of this event. In the ensuing darkness and sudden climate upheaval, surviving life was forced to adapt along new evolutionary paths. Small reptiles, previously minor players in the ecosystem, began to thrive, setting the stage for the rise of dinosaurs during the Triassic period. The discovery of the meteorite crater beneath Antarctic ice has not only helped reconstruct the scenario behind one of Earth's greatest extinction events, but also provided critical clues to the shifts in life's diversity, heralding the era of dinosaur dominance. Through this work, scientists continue to track the fingerprints of cosmic disasters that have shaped evolutionary history and use them to better anticipate the risks our planet may face in the future. The HARP program, Conspiracies of Weather and Mind Control. Nestled among Alaska's icy mountains, the HARP research facility remains one of the most hotly debated sites of modern times. Officially established to study Earth's ionosphere, this array of high-frequency antennas and transmitters is capable of sending energy into the upper atmosphere, enabling experiments in space, physics, and telecommunications monitoring. Scientists use HARP to study radio wave propagation, fluctuations in Earth's magnetic field, and the influence of solar radiation on global communications systems. Yet, HARP's advanced technology quickly gave rise to a storm of speculation regarding the project's true purpose. Many theories suggest the facility's high-frequency transmissions could manipulate large-scale weather patterns, or even alter human psychological states by affecting the brain's bioelectrical activity. The media and public have linked HARP to everything from mysterious earthquakes to widespread blackouts and sudden, extreme weather changes around the world. Suspicions only intensified after it became known that HARP collaborates with defense research organizations like DARPA. The site's remote location, secretive operations, and tight access controls have fueled further doubts. Some theories go so far as to claim that, beyond atmospheric research, HARP is testing behavior, control technology, or even influencing mass emotions via radio waves. However, to date, all published scientific data indicate that HARP's actual impact on the environment and people remains within safe atmospheric physics limits, and there is no convincing evidence for weather or mind control claims. Still, the ongoing narrative surrounding HARP continues to capture the imagination and spark debate among scientists and the public alike, making it a defining symbol of the clash between experimental science and fears of superhuman power. Prehistoric monsters in Antarctica. Beneath the thick ice that now blankets Antarctica, scientific expeditions have gradually unveiled a landscape that was once entirely different. What they have uncovered is not just a scattering of relics, but an entire ecosystem that once thrived at the southernmost point of the planet. After years of excavation and analysis, paleontologists have discovered numerous fossils of reptiles, early mammals, and other terrestrial creatures buried deep within ancient sediment layers that were once swampy lowlands and dense forests. Fossilized bones reveal the forms of creatures that lived in climates far warmer than those found in Antarctica today. Some skeletons point to large carnivorous reptiles with sharp teeth, as well as giant amphibians, enormous frogs that once lived in the shallow waters near forests. Fossils of ancient mammalian relatives further prove the existence of diverse animal communities adapted to these prehistoric habitats. Studies of bone and tooth structure show that many animals were burrowers or semi-aquatic, while some species display unique evolutionary traits specific to the southern hemisphere, evidence of wide-ranging biological exchanges with present-day South America. Fossilized plants, petrified wood, pollen spores, and leaf impressions on stone also confirm that Antarctica was once home to lush, tropical forests. These findings demonstrate that Antarctica has not always been a frozen wasteland, but was once a vibrant home to a variety of animal and plant groups evolving side by side over millions of years. Shifts in continental positions, tectonic movement, and changes in ocean currents and climate gradually transformed this land into the isolated, icy desert we see today, burying evidence of a diverse and complex world that once existed at the far south of the planet. The UFO craze and strange clouds in Alaska. The skies over Alaska sometimes become a stage for baffling phenomena, where the line between scientific reality and modern myth is at its thinnest. On a cold morning at the end of April, many residents near Lazy Mountain witnessed a strange, elongated cloud shaped like a smoke plume or metallic trail, with a pointed tip resembling a claw. Within minutes, photos of the sight had spread across social media, triggering a wave of speculation about unidentified flying objects or even secret military activities. Community response was swift, prompting state police and helicopter crews to investigate the area and try to determine the origin of the odd cloud. Official reports ultimately concluded that the mysterious image was actually a contrail, a condensation trail left by an aircraft when ice and water crystals combined with sunlight at a particular angle. Authorities emphasized that this was a normal meteorological phenomenon, with no connection to extraterrestrial objects or classified experiments. Despite scientific explanations, not all locals were convinced. The cloud's unusual appearance and strange lighting effects fueled ongoing speculation about UFOs, the secret presence of aliens in Alaska, or suspicions of government cover-ups. Some of the more extreme theories claimed the sighting was evidence of undisclosed technology or the visible part of secret military operations deep underground. For years, Alaska's rugged landscape and sparse population have made it fertile ground for tales of unidentified flying objects and supernatural events. While no scientific proof supports the idea of extraterrestrial intervention, each new sky mystery keeps the legend of UFOs alive, feeding public fascination with what remains unknown about our world. The Emperor Penguin. Amidst the frozen expanse of Antarctica, the emperor penguin stands out as a symbol of ultimate adaptation to the harshest environment on Earth. As the largest bird found at the pole, an adult emperor penguin can reach over a meter in height and weigh nearly 40 kilograms. In temperatures that can plunge below -40 degrees Celsius, the emperor penguin's migration and breeding cycles form an ecological rhythm unlike anything else in the animal kingdom. At the end of autumn, when the winds are at their fiercest, flocks of emperor penguins trek dozens of miles from the sea deep into the icy continent, searching for a safe spot to begin their breeding season. Here, each female lays a single egg per season. Immediately after laying, the mother returns to the ocean to feed, leaving the responsibility of incubation entirely to the male. For nearly 2 months straight, the males eat nothing, keeping the precious egg balanced on their feet beneath a special flap of belly skin that shields it from the extreme cold and relentless blizzards. This period also marks the harshest conditions Antarctica has to offer. Temperatures drop to their yearly lows and winds can reach hundreds of kilometers per hour. The endurance of the emperor penguin is widely seen as the ultimate test of survival among all living creatures on the planet. When the egg finally hatches, the mother returns from the sea, bringing nourishment from the ocean depths to continue feeding the chick until it grows a warm layer of feathers and is strong enough to leave the nest and swim out to hunt alongside its parents. The entire life cycle of the emperor penguin is tied inextricably to sea ice. They require vast, stable ice fields for nesting, raising young, and shelter throughout the endless winter. However, modern surveys reveal that sea ice in Antarctica is in rapid decline due to global climate change. As the ice vanishes at an unprecedented rate, many traditional breeding grounds are becoming unsuitable, and the survival rate of eggs and chicks has dropped dramatically. If current warming trends continue, models predict that most emperor penguin colonies could disappear from the wild within just a few decades. Their numbers today are already half what they were a century ago, and the threat of extinction looms large. The fate of the emperor penguin is more than just the story of an iconic polar species. It is a stark warning of the broader impacts of climate change on the world's ecosystems. Through field observation, genetic analysis, and advanced ecological modeling, scientists are working to better understand the emperor penguin's life cycle, adaptability, and the challenges it faces, with the hope of preserving one of the last great symbols of life on the eternal ice. The Vindolanda wooden writing tablets of Roman soldiers. The discovery of wooden writing tablets at the Vindolanda fort has provided an invaluable trove of original documents for research into Roman frontier life. Thousands of thin wooden slats inscribed with ink record personal letters, logistical notes, and even party invitations, revealing a sophisticated communication network within the camp and between soldiers and their families back home. These letters go beyond military matters, offering glimpses into daily life, meals, harsh weather, homesickness, friendships, relationships between superiors and subordinates, and even internal camp disputes. The language used is often simple, sometimes with grammatical mistakes, demonstrating just how naturally these ancient messages capture the lived reality of the Roman world, much like a handwritten letter or text message today. Archaeologists and historians regard the Vindolanda tablets as a living archive, authentically reflecting the mindset and aspirations of Roman soldiers stationed in a foreign land. Through these messages, researchers gain direct insight into the structure of military organization, communal routines, and the ongoing challenges of maintaining contact across the distant outposts of the empire. Thus, the Vindolanda tablets are not only archaeological treasures, but also a gateway for interdisciplinary studies in social history, linguistics, psychology, and anthropology, adding new depth and diversity to our understanding of one of antiquity's greatest military systems, the ancient Roman cemetery of Gaza. The excavation of an ancient Roman cemetery on the Mediterranean coast has yielded a crucial archaeological record for studying the history of the crossroads between Asia, Europe, and Africa. Over 20 graves, complete with distinctive burial structures, grave goods, such as pottery and bones, have been dated to around 2,000 years ago, evidence of a Roman community in what was once a key link in ancient trade routes. This cemetery lies near a major artery connecting great civilizations from Egypt to the Mediterranean and the Middle East. The blend of Roman architecture and local burial customs reflects the contact and integration of multiple cultures. It is direct proof of Gaza's role as a transfer hub for international commerce, while also hinting at shifting populations and the impact of war on ancient urban development. By analyzing human remains and grave goods, scientists can determine origins, population, composition, and daily habits of those who lived here. The combination of archaeology, anthropology, and history allows for a multi-dimensional reconstruction of Roman Gaza, expanding our understanding of how Roman civilization spread, adapted, and transformed at this strategic junction of 3 continents. The Roman gold treasure. Beneath the Spanish Sea, the discovery of Roman gold beneath the waters off Spain has supplied new empirical evidence for the study of economics, trade, and the late history of the Roman Empire. 2 amateur divers exploring the coast near Alicante stumbled upon 53 intact gold coins, dated to the 4th and 5th centuries AD, a time marking the decline and collapse of the Western Roman Empire. The faces of emperors are still clearly visible, providing first-hand documentation of currency and authority during this tumultuous period. The concentration of so much gold in one spot suggests it may have been transported by sea to avoid looting or hidden as an emergency reserve during unstable times. Analysis of the coin's alloy composition and signs of wear help reconstruct their journey and illuminate the economic activities along the Mediterranean coast in the late 5th century. Archaeologists also draw on the discovery site and surrounding evidence to piece together why the gold-bearing ship sank, whether through war, piracy, or natural disaster. The treasure's value lies not just in the gold itself, but in the insights it offers into monetary systems, asset management, and community responses to historical upheaval. This find helps clarify the transfer of power, economic turmoil, and ultimate decline of Rome, while opening new avenues for maritime archaeology and studies of ancient Mediterranean trade networks. Ancient ninja clay shuriken in Japan. The discovery of flat clay objects in Tokyo has opened a new chapter in the study of ninja history. Morphological analysis and comparison with military records have identified these artifacts as ninja shuriken, the iconic throwing weapons long associated with the legends of Japan's warring states era. Previously thought to be mostly folkloric, physical evidence now shows that ninja did, in fact, use these weapons in real combat. The clay shuriken were excavated from castle ruins around Tokyo, sometimes found alongside other battlefield tools, such as caltrops, spikes, designed to injure enemy feet. The technical features of ancient shuriken, including their flat design and versatility for both attack and defense, reveal the diverse weapon crafting skills of ninja in a time of great upheaval. This discovery also verifies the practical role of ninja as a specialized force for reconnaissance and unconventional warfare, not merely as figures of legend. The combination of archaeological evidence and historical military documents now allows a more objective portrait of ninja, confirming their real presence in medieval Japanese society. In this way, artifacts like the clay shuriken add to the historical record, illustrating the evolution of combat techniques and the deep interweaving of myth and reality in the culture of the Eastern warrior. Decipherment and ancient cryptography. Throughout the history of human thought and social organization, the emergence of cryptographic systems clearly reflects the need for secure information among civilizations with centralized administration and complex military operations. Encoding information dates back to ancient times, as seen in documents, coded tablets, and encrypted artifacts, proving that humans have always sought not only to transmit messages but also to conceal their true meaning, transforming communication into both an art form and an instrument of power. Among classical cryptographic systems, the Caesar cipher stands as a milestone in the maturation of cryptographic science in ancient Europe. Named after Julius Caesar, this method used alphabetic shifts to produce messages unreadable to anyone without the key. Though basic, this technique was effective for securing secrets in military campaigns, diplomatic correspondence, and even trade during the Roman era. By simply shifting each character according to a fixed rule, an entire message would be transformed into meaningless strings for outsiders. Remarkably, the Caesar cipher did not remain limited to individuals or single dynasties. It spread widely and continued to be used for centuries. By World War I, the Russian army still employed variations of the Caesar cipher, even as other nations developed far more sophisticated systems, illustrating the enduring power and adaptability of this classic code. While mechanical devices like the cryptex only appear in modern fiction and lack direct archaeological evidence, the concept of secure mechanical devices for storing secret information is not foreign to the history of technology. Researchers from archaeologists to modern IT specialists continue to investigate ancient encoding mechanisms, from Greek stone inscriptions and Mesopotamian clay tablets to enigmatic bronze and gold artifacts from Egypt, Mesopotamia, and ancient China. Cryptographic systems not only protected information, but also intertwined with power structures, ritual, and social control, creating secret languages passed down among the elite. The evolution of cryptography from the primitive techniques of the Caesar cipher through the more complex substitution ciphers of the Middle Ages into machines like the 20th century Enigma all share foundations in logical thinking and technical innovation that first emerged in antiquity. The legacy of ancient cryptology not only safeguarded secrets, but also spurred advances in mathematics, linguistics, and especially the art of metaphorical communication, subtle codes in religious texts, legends, and spiritual traditions across millennia. The ghost islands of the Arctic Ocean. In the frigid seas north of Greenland, small islands that appear and then vanish have long puzzled explorers and scientists. On maps and in ships' logs, these islands are sometimes recorded as the new northernmost point of the continent, only to disappear with the next thaw, leaving behind nothing but vague notes. At times, the race to claim the northernmost island led to heated disputes, as one expedition marked precise coordinates, yet upon return found only open water or a patch of damp gravel on the ice. It was only after coordinated efforts by geologists and climate researchers, using depth soundings, sample analysis, and continuous satellite imagery, that the true nature of these Arctic ghost islands became clear. Most of these islands are not created by tectonic activity or upwelling from the seafloor. Instead, they are usually large icebergs carrying layers of gravel and rock, scraped from glaciers or coastal cliffs in Greenland. When these bergs drift into shallow waters, the debris clings to the ice, making them appear like real islands, especially in summer, when the overlying ice melts away to expose the gravel below. This phenomenon is a link in the cycle of material exchange between land and cold oceans. As these massive icebergs move out to sea, they transport rocks and other geological material dozens or even hundreds of kilometers. Under the right conditions, shallow banks or weak currents, these bergs can become stranded, sediment collects, and a temporary island forms. But with any change in temperature or strong wind, the structure collapses, the ice and gravel sink, and the island disappears, leaving only cold water and muddy seabed behind. Modern observations show that rapid Arctic ice melt has increased the frequency of these phantom islands, making the boundaries between land and sea in the polar region constantly shift. Such phenomena challenge explorers and cartographers, but also provide valuable data on climate change impacts in the Arctic and the dynamics of material transport in cold oceans. Ghost islands have thus become a vivid symbol of the interplay between ice, geology, and the perpetual motion of Earth in a new era. The ancient nuclear war hypothesis. The theory of an ancient nuclear war originates in the epic Mahabharata, where descriptions of devastating weapons uncannily echo the effects of a nuclear explosion. In stories passed down for thousands of years, images of giant fire columns, blinding flashes, Earth turned to ash, bodies burned beyond recognition, and hair and nails falling out after the battle bear a striking resemblance to accounts from Hiroshima and Nagasaki in the 20th century. Modern science, searching for traces of these stories in the field, encountered an area near the city of Jodhpur. Here, a layer of earth covering 3 square miles contains unusually high radioactive ash. The sudden rise in birth defects, cancer, and other health problems in the local population supports the idea that a nuclear detonation may have occurred. Soil radiation levels far exceed safety standards, with no explanation from natural sources or modern industry. This raises haunting questions. If there truly was a nuclear disaster here, when did it happen, who was responsible, and what civilization possessed such destructive power? The uniform spread of radioactive ash, without evidence of industrial material or modern reactors, adds weight to the hypothesis of a prehistoric event. Ancient texts speak of iron messengers descending from the sky, weapons of energy capable of incinerating life in an instant. These ancient words seem reflected in the radioactive earth, hinting at a time when knowledge of nuclear physics did not belong solely to the modern age. No conclusive proof has yet been found for a nuclear war in our distant past, but the intersection of ancient texts, geology, and biological anomalies in Rajasthan has turned this region into a natural experiment spanning millennia. It is not just a question about an explosion, but a challenge for generations of archaeologists, physicists, and anthropologists, each new discovery pushing the boundaries of human understanding closer to a history once buried beneath layers of ash and time. The growth, spread, and competition of ancient religions. The development and spread of ancient religions across Mesopotamia, the Near East, and the Mediterranean was a complex process, deeply intertwined with the cultural, social, and political character of each region. Every major civilization built its own pantheon, creating layered belief systems where the roles and powers of gods shifted with the tides of history. In Mesopotamia, the Sumerians created a mythological system with Enlil as supreme deity, Nana as moon god, and Inanna as goddess of love and war. Later, Babylon shifted power to Marduk, the god of justice, renewal, and supreme authority, who became the focus of Babylonian religious life. Marduk was worshipped in great temples and national rituals, symbolizing the fusion of religion and political power. In Canaan, Baal emerged as the god of rain, fertility, and agriculture, directly rivaling Yahweh in the Hebrew Bible. The struggle between Baal and Yahweh is explicit in religious texts, especially during the consolidation of ancient Israelite power. The Bible labels Baal and other local gods such as Kos, Kamash as false gods, associating them with rituals condemned as barbaric, like child sacrifice, even though archaeological evidence for such practices remains contentious. In Babylon, Nergal was the god of death, war, and plague, mirroring ancient anxieties about natural calamities. Tammuz, the god of resurrection, love, and agriculture, had myths of death and rebirth that later influenced Egyptian and Mediterranean religions. Shamash was the god of sun and justice, inspiring ancient law codes like the Code of Hammurabi. Religious competition and syncretism occurred constantly through migration, war, colonization, and trade, leading to the assimilation, merging, or exclusion of deities. Major religions not only fought for believers but also used propaganda and demonization, as seen in biblical accounts. Many alleged rituals like child sacrifice lack firm archaeological or contemporary evidence outside hostile sources, highlighting the ideological struggle between communities. This dynamic played out not just among local religions, but also strongly influenced the rise of later monotheistic systems. Elements of myth, ritual, symbolism, and names were exchanged and adapted to bolster the legitimacy of new faiths. Thus, the growth, spread, and rivalry among ancient religions fueled religious creativity and shaped the cultural identity of the Middle East, leaving a lasting mark on the history of religion worldwide. Out-of-place archaeological evidence. Material artifacts that defy conventional timelines, often called out-of-place objects, are among the most hotly debated topics in archaeology and geology. A famous example is the discovery of a small clay figurine in Nampa, Idaho. Workers drilling a well nearly 90 meters deep through Pleistocene sediments uncovered a tiny female-shaped artifact with detailed features and precise anatomy. The soil encasing the object was dated at about 2 million years old, long before the accepted emergence of Homo sapiens or any direct human ancestors. This raises the question: is this relic from an unknown prehistoric civilization, or was it carried to unusual depths by geological processes? Physical analysis and craftsmanship indicate human manufacture, but the contradiction between stratigraphic dating and accepted evolutionary theory leaves this object unexplained by current knowledge. Similarly, fossilized footprints in Zapata have confounded the scientific community. Impressed in limestone dated to around 250 million years ago, when land was dominated by ancient reptiles and no human or primate was thought to exist, they raise the possibility of a natural phenomenon or force creating the impression. Yet the toe structure, arch, and geometric proportions make this explanation less than satisfactory. The Calavera's skull in California, found beneath ancient lava, was once considered evidence of early human presence in North America. However, modern radiometric dating showed the skull to be less than 1,000 years old, conflicting with the much older geological layer where it was found. Debate continues over whether the skull was dropped into deeper strata through natural processes, or was even a hoax designed to stir academic controversy at the time. Whether ultimately debunked or still mysterious, such artifacts challenge our assumptions about history. They expose the limits of current dating methods and our understanding of evolution, and demand rigorous study of both possible lost civilizations and the ways natural processes might intermingle ancient and modern remains within the geological record. A 2,700-year-old Assyrian leather armor found in China. The discovery of a 2,700-year-old scale leather armor in a tomb near Turfan, China, has added critical evidence to the study of ancient military and technological exchange between Eurasian civilizations. Analysis of its materials and craftsmanship revealed that this was a style of scale armor unique to the Assyrian civilization, a Western Asian power renowned for its military prowess and organizational skill. The armor consists of over 5,400 small leather scales laced together to form a lightweight, flexible, and easily worn protective layer. This design is distinct from traditional Chinese armors of the same era, demonstrating the west-to-east flow of technology along ancient trade routes. The structure and materials closely match Assyrian examples found in West Asia, supporting theories of direct transfer or exchange via craftsmen, soldiers, or merchants across continents. The presence of such a clearly West Asian military artifact in China illuminates the extent of early technological diffusion, reflecting contact networks before the Silk Road became established. Further research on distribution, material sources, and burial context continues to expand our understanding of how techniques and knowledge, as well as diplomatic gifts and mercenary services, circulated in the ancient world. This discovery is reshaping views of technological and military knowledge transfer, showing that development was not uniform but the result of early, complex interaction and integration between East and West Asia. The modern church, scandal, and confronting its legacy. In the 20th and 21st centuries, the global Catholic Church has faced unprecedented waves of criticism related to decades-long scandals. Widespread child sexual abuse by thousands of priests, together with organized cover-ups at every level, created a deep crisis and shattered public trust worldwide. The revelation and release of secret documents, such as the Canon 489 files containing records of crimes, abuse, settlements, and destroyed evidence, exposed a system more focused on protecting its image than on the rights of victims. Massive lawsuits and multi-billion-dollar settlements in the US, Ireland, Australia, Germany, and elsewhere have raised serious questions about the modern church's role and social responsibility. Beyond abuse, financial mismanagement, links to Nazi assets, covert asset transfers through secret banks or religious entities have made the Vatican the subject of multiple international investigations. Accusations of money laundering, corruption, abuse of power, and embezzlement have ignited ongoing debate over church governance and the lack of independent oversight. In this context, contemporary popes, especially Pope Francis, have been forced to confront calls for reform both internally and externally. Francis has implemented financial and organizational reforms, promoted transparency, and encouraged reporting of abuse in an effort to rebuild trust. Yet this process is hindered by internal resistance, conservative factions, and powerful networks that have existed for generations. Meanwhile, the Vatican remains fertile ground for conspiracy theories, from hiding secrets of Atlantis and Templar treasures, to end times prophecies, the last pope, or untold secrets locked in the archives. Whether myth or conspiracy, these stories mirror modern skepticism toward ancient centers of power, especially when they have a history of secrecy, manipulation, or control. In an era of globalization and digital media, the Church can no longer control its image and information as in the past. Exposés, independent investigations, and public pressure have forced the Church to truly face its own legacy. The greatest challenge now is not just managing the fallout from scandals, but overhauling governance, opening financial operations, and creating an ethical foundation that matches the demands of today, maintaining its spiritual role without violating human rights or international law. Stories of biology, evolution, and archaeology. Side stories from biology, evolution, and archaeology not only complement the narrative of religious and intellectual history, but also provide a panoramic view of life's origins and transformations on Earth. From the discovery of gigantic Paleogene mammals, massive marine reptiles, primitive amphibians, to the bizarre life forms of the Cambrian, science has gradually unraveled hundreds of millions of years of evolutionary history, revealing the fundamental rules of life. Fossils from every continent prove that animal species have undergone numerous cycles of development, adaptation, and extinction in response to geological, climatic, and ecological shifts. For example, European plesiosaur fossils demonstrate the dominance of marine reptiles in the Jurassic seas, while fossils of gigantic whales document the return of certain mammals to aquatic environments. In polar regions, dinosaurs like the tiny tyrant evolved to survive harsh climates and extreme daylight, illustrating life's remarkable flexibility under natural selection. Particularly, ancient creatures like Anomalocaris from the Cambrian or Proto-Rhinus, a primitive amphibian, highlight the role of evolutionary explosions and mass extinctions. Each new fossil or ancient relic helps reset the timeline of life, from the earliest invertebrates to the appearance of modern animal groups. Importantly, this process of biological evolution has always run parallel with the growth of ideas, religion, and myth. In ancient societies, fossil discoveries, or the remains of strange creatures, were often explained through legend, dragons, demons, or protective spirits in spiritual rituals. Stories of sea monsters, giant reptiles, or strange fossil animals were woven into native mythology, reflecting humanity's attempts to understand nature through faith and imagination. Only with the rise of modern science, fossil analysis, genetic modeling, and advanced imaging have many ancient legends been scientifically decoded. Consequently, human understanding of evolution and Earth's history continues to change, challenging old views of species emergence and extinction. Moreover, the discovery of unique life forms, whether giants or ecological specialists, help scientists better envision ancient migration routes, exchanges, and the spread of biological traits across major cultures. This demonstrates the interweaving of biological history with continental currents of culture, economy, and society. Another important point is that the history of archaeology and paleontology shows that science does not always completely eliminate spiritual or mythic elements. In fact, scientific discoveries often inspire new hypotheses about the links between humanity, nature, and the universe, fueling curiosity and the search for origins and destiny. Thus, the intertwined processes of biological evolution, archaeology, and religious consciousness have always influenced one another. Every new fossil, archaeological site, or genetic structure broadens scientific knowledge and creates opportunities for humanity to reconnect with its own past, posing profound questions about life, death, extinction, rebirth, and our place in the grand evolutionary tapestry. In this way, modern science does not merely replace ancient faith, but also enriches and deepens our philosophical and religious perspectives on existence and the movement of the world. The scenario of humanity. Destroying a planet. 55 million years ago, the hypothesis of a global climate transformation cycle that occurred 55 million years ago has raised many questions about the possibility of a civilization that may have flourished before modern humans, or perhaps even intervention of an ancient humanity or an extraterrestrial intelligence. The evidence, preserved in the layers of geological sediment, is the record of a dramatic spike in temperature that lasted for hundreds of thousands of years. This is documented by stable isotopes and fossils embedded in the rock and soil, reflecting an environmental upheaval on a planetary scale. This era of sudden warming is now known as the Paleocene-Eocene thermal maximum. During this period, greenhouse gases, such as CO2 and methane, soared far beyond normal equilibrium levels, triggering environmental changes on a vast scale. These changes disrupted ecosystems across the planet and led to waves of local extinctions. Geologists and climate scientists have discovered a series of anomalies within the ancient rock layers, including the simultaneous appearance of complex organic compounds and ocean acidification levels that far exceed anything seen in the normal evolutionary history of the Earth. A number of researchers, led by astrophysicists and paleoclimatologists, have raised the possibility that such disturbances could bear the fingerprint of industrial activity at a planetary scale, reminiscent of the impact of industrialization in our own era. Adam Frank and Gavin Schmidt have put forward the idea that if an advanced technological civilization ever existed in the distant past, or if an extraterrestrial culture ever visited and left its mark on Earth, then the byproducts of massive energy production and consumption would leave behind distinct signals in the geological record, similar to those now observed in the Paleocene-Eocene thermal maximum. For now, these debates remain hypothetical. There is no direct evidence to confirm the existence of an industrial civilization prior to modern humanity. Still, the peculiarities found in the geological archives force scientists to reconsider the entire course of biological and climatic evolution on this planet. A deeper study of chemical indices, shifts in biodiversity, and the accumulation of ancient carbon may yet help unravel the question of whether a civilization once dramatically altered the environment tens of millions of years ago. The true nature of this ancient warming event remains a mystery. Yet the emergence of hypotheses involving the influence of ancient or even alien civilizations speaks to the diversity of modern scientific approaches in dealing with the planet's strangest historical episodes. Such ideas open up new avenues of inquiry about the existence, growth, and eventual extinction of civilizations that may have left their mark within the very fabric of the Earth itself. Pyramid construction technology and the acoustic levitation theory. In the history of research on the Egyptian pyramids, the The question of how the ancient builders transported and assembled stone blocks weighing tens of tons has always been a subject of controversy. The most widely accepted theories so far are based on the use of human power, pulley systems, sloping ramps, or hydraulic devices. However, another approach suggests that the ancient Egyptians may have used sound waves to move heavy objects, a concept that may sound strange, but still attracts the attention of modern researchers. Scientifically, the technology of lifting objects with sound waves has been and is being tested in laboratories. The essence of this phenomenon is the creation of a sound field strong enough to keep an object suspended in mid-air through the pressure of the waves. Recent experiments, such as those in 2016 by scientists in the UK and Brazil, used sound waves to levitate a polystyrene ball with a diameter larger than the sound wavelength, paving the way for further experiments with larger objects. In 2017, a group at the University of Bristol also succeeded in levitating a plastic sphere 2 centimeters in size, though this is still far from moving stone blocks like those at Giza. Nevertheless, these advances show the potential of acoustic technology in manipulating matter, opening up further research into its applications on a larger scale. The inspiration for these theories also comes from the records of the 10th century Arab historian al-Masudi. He described the ancient Egyptians as placing papers inscribed with symbols under stone blocks, then touching them with metal rods to make them levitate and move along routes lined with metal columns. Although this story is rich in legendary elements, it suggests the idea of an ancient technology based on sound waves or resonant interactions. When compared with the structural and acoustic features in the large internal spaces of the pyramids, many researchers have noted that the chambers inside the pyramids can resonate with sound at certain frequencies, leading to theories about the Egyptians' profound physical knowledge. The story of Coral Castle in Florida, USA, is often cited as a modern example. From 1923 to 1951, Edward Leedskalnin single-handedly built a complex of massive stones without using heavy machinery. He never revealed his methods, only mentioning being in tune with the music of the stars. This has continued to fuel theories that humans, if they grasped certain physical principles, might move large objects without relying on traditional mechanical strength. Currently, there is no conclusive evidence that the Egyptians used sound waves to build the pyramids, but the achievements in ancient acoustics and modern inventions both demonstrate that the limits of human technology are always changing. The existence of such theories not only reflects human imagination and the desire to explore, but also motivates future generations to keep searching for and decoding the mysteries behind the world's greatest structures. Volcanoes, landslides, and giant tsunamis. The volcanic system of the Hawaiian archipelago is a place that records many recent tectonic processes and is continually formed by the Pacific Plate's movement over a hotspot beneath the Earth. The geological features of these volcanic islands are defined not only by the accumulation of magma and lava eruptions, but also by the risk of large-scale slope collapses. Over millions of years, uneven buildup of island material has created immense, potential sliding masses that, while moving slowly, can suddenly collapse when their load-bearing limit is reached. When a vast volume of volcanic material slides into the sea, it releases tremendous energy and pushes the water up, creating tsunamis much taller than those triggered by earthquakes. Hawaii's geological history has recorded landslides that created tsunamis hundreds of meters high, spreading across the Pacific and leaving traces in coastal sediments of many nations. Today, the Helena slump remains closely monitored by geodynamic experts, with modern equipment measuring every minor movement to forecast the risks and potential scenarios for future disasters. Not only Hawaii, but many coastal volcanic regions around the world have also experienced landslide-triggered tsunamis, like the 2018 disaster at Indonesia's Anak Krakatau Island. This shows that geological processes threaten not only local areas, but also pose risks to the entire Pacific Rim and its densely populated coastal cities. Alongside the tsunami threat from landslides, the permafrost regions of Siberia face another danger. Global warming is causing permafrost to melt rapidly, releasing methane gas trapped in underground pockets. When the pressure exceeds the frozen ground's tolerance, methane bursts out in powerful explosions, leaving large craters on the surface. This not only changes the geographic landscape, but also contributes to greenhouse gas emissions, impacting global climate. These mysterious explosions have been recorded on the Yamal Peninsula and other areas of Siberia, requiring interdisciplinary research to fully assess their environmental and ecological impacts. Magic and science in medieval and ancient cultures. In both the Middle Ages and the ancient world, the boundary between magic and religion was not as distinct as in modern understanding. Works like the Picatrix, a mystical book that emerged in the 10th to 11th centuries, are typical examples of this complex intersection. Picatrix was originally compiled in Arabic as Gayat al-Hakim, then quickly spread to Europe through Latin translations and became the subject of Western intellectual study for centuries. Picatrix did not stop at describing ancient rituals and magic, but also deeply combined elements of astrology and the art of preparing various medicinal substances. The book gave specific instructions on using the positions of planets, properties of herbs and minerals, and complex prayers to create effects that today would be classified as supernatural. Some recipes in Picatrix are even related to psychological phenomena, consciousness, and human perception, thus laying the foundation for later scientific exploration of the mind in Europe. Not only Picatrix, but certain outstanding individuals from the Middle Ages are also symbols of the combination of science and magic. Michael Scott, born in the late 12th century, was among the most prominent. He was known as a mathematician, alchemist, and also famous under the nickname the Wizard of the North. Michael Scott studied and taught at major intellectual centers of Europe, played a crucial role in translating Aristotle's works from Arabic into Latin, and contributed significantly to the revival of classical knowledge in the West. He was also the direct mentor of Fibonacci, the mathematician who developed the famous sequence, thereby passing inspiration and mathematical knowledge to subsequent generations. What made Michael Scott special was the blend of philosophical theory, astrology, and the art of managing one's social image. He not only researched mathematics and astronomy, but also used this knowledge to engage in diplomacy and became an advisor to major royal courts, such as that of Emperor Frederick II. These skills helped him build the image of a wizard, serving both personal interests and strengthening power and influence in the turbulent society of medieval Europe. The existence of figures and works like Picatrix and Michael Scott shows that in those eras, there was no clear boundary between science and magic. Concepts now considered mysterious were once part of efforts to explain and control natural phenomena not yet understood by scientific theory. It was this convergence and interaction that drove the development of rational thinking and laid the foundation for many achievements of Western science, from physics to psychology and modern medicine. The Indus Valley Civilization. The Indus Valley Civilization developed from about 2600 to 1900 BCE in what is now Pakistan and northern India, and is considered one of humanity's earliest urban centers. Major cities like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa showed careful planning that demonstrates an exceptional level of social organization. A remarkable feature of the Indus Valley is the absence of traces of weapons or large-scale fortifications in its archaeological sites, suggesting that this society operated on a peaceful mechanism with little evidence of prolonged large-scale conflict. The management structure seemed to be decentralized by city, with each area maintaining its own function and order, while still connecting with other centers through an extensive trade network stretching as far as Mesopotamia and ancient Persia. Crafts, such as metallurgy and textiles, along with agriculture based on irrigation, formed an economy stable enough to last for centuries. One of the greatest mysteries of this civilization is the Indus script, which has never been deciphered. Thousands of seals and clay tablets with characteristic symbols have been found at nearly every site, but their full meaning and use remain beyond modern scientific explanation. The inability to decipher the script means that most knowledge about Indus governance, society, and spiritual life is based mainly on archaeological analysis, without confirmation from contemporary written sources. The decline of the Indus Valley took place around 1900–1700 BCE, and its causes remain debated. Some theories suggest that climate change caused rivers to shift course, resulting in loss of water, famine, and disease. Other theories emphasize conflict with migrating groups or widespread epidemics, but there is no evidence of concentrated warfare. To this day, the end of the Indus Valley Civilization is a major question for world archaeology. The abandoned cities, undeciphered script, and remaining artifacts are proof of a period of development whose achievements have not yet been fully matched in human history. The Vinca culture. On the wetlands along the Danube more than 7 millennia ago, the Vinca culture created one of the largest and most mysterious Neolithic communities in Europe. Their remnants are spread across central Serbia and extend into Romania and as far as Macedonia, forming an unusually dense network of settlements for that era. Within these communities, the Vinca people left unique evidence of social development and perhaps even the earliest notions of fashion and comfortable living. Excavations at Vinca below Brdo near Belgrade have revealed layer upon layer of consecutive wooden platform architecture, demonstrating long-term settlement and the accumulation of knowledge over many generations. In particular, traces of large houses with carefully constructed roofs, molded earth walls, and primitive drainage systems show that the Vinca people not only settled along the rivers, but also learned to make use of resources and control their environment. These structures also served as centers for spiritual life and ceremonies dedicated to the mother goddess, the heart of their culture. Yet the most outstanding feature of the Vinca people is found in their art and symbolism. Thousands of clay figurines, mostly depicting women with stylized forms and a diversity of jewelry, have been unearthed. Each feature of the figurines is meticulously crafted, suggesting an advanced aesthetic sense and reflecting the central position of women in society. The remains of clothing and jewelry found beside skeletons show that the Vinca people paid great attention to beauty, cared about every detail of appearance, and may have engaged in long-distance trade to obtain rare materials. Beyond art, Vinca is also remarkable for its discoveries of primitive metallurgy. Archaeological evidence indicates that as early as the 6th millennium BCE, local people could smelt copper, producing spearheads and jewelry from raw metal. These items may represent the earliest evidence of metallurgy in Europe, paving the way for the major advances of later human civilizations. More than just material development, the Vinca people also enjoyed rare comforts for their time. The discovery of ancient hot springs and areas with traces of outdoor bathing pools suggests that the idea of relaxation existed very early on. These baths may have been used for both hygiene and religious rituals, adding a distinct dimension to daily life. Remarkably, even after more than 1,000 years of brilliant development, the Vinca culture seems to show no signs of fortifications or major warfare. The successive layers of culture and stable settlement patterns all point to a society that was peaceful, closely linked to nature, and open to interaction with neighboring communities. Yet, many mysteries still surround the origins and decline of Vinca. Strange marks and symbols carved on pottery and clay figurines raise questions about a possible early form of writing. The structure of power and relationships among the major and minor centers remain topics of ongoing archaeological debate. Vinca stands as evidence of a turning point for humanity in Neolithic Europe, a place where concepts of beauty and comfort formed early on, leaving a lasting imprint on generations to come. Magic as a medieval social service. Within medieval European society, magic once played the role of an organized and widely practiced social service. For most people of the era, magic was not absolutely forbidden, but instead a practical tool used to solve everyday problems, from finding lost objects to healing illness or aiding romantic pursuits through love charms and rituals. Magic permeated all aspects of life, meeting needs that mainstream medicine and religion could not address or had not yet reached across all social strata. Central to this system were the cunning folk practitioners of magic, whose traditional skills were passed down through generations. They not only provided services like fortune-telling or crafting protective charms, but also acted as folk healers for both nobility and commoners. Notably, in many cases, cunning folk enjoyed community protection and support as long as their activities did not result in serious threats to social order or religious security. Societal attitudes towards magic began to change dramatically from the late 15th century, as the Church and European authorities increasingly linked magical practices to sin and heresy. The explosion of witch hunts in the 16th and 17th centuries turned magic from a semi-public profession into a target for severe persecution. Many individuals who had once been trusted and respected by society suddenly became victims of accusations of consorting with evil forces. Medieval European history thus marks a major shift from accepting magic as a useful part of community life to eradicating and criminalizing all related activities. This transformation reflected changes in social consciousness, as well as the effects of political, religious, and scientific developments. Magic, once a social service with an accepted status, became a symbol of shifting values, beliefs, and methods of acquiring knowledge throughout human history. The ancestral Puebloans. Across the vast plateaus of the American Southwest, The ancestors of today's Pueblo people left a profound mark on the landscape, with enduring stone constructions clinging to cliffs and natural ledges. Over 1,000 years ago, as the first indigenous communities gathered in valleys and canyons, they began a long period of advancement in building techniques and the observation of the sky. Traces of the ancestral Puebloans remain visible in the multi-story homes made of sandstone, adobe, and wood perched on mountain slopes or hidden deep within natural caves. These complexes served not only as dwellings but also as centers for rituals and the preservation of communal knowledge. At sites such as Mesa, Verde, and Bandelier, round underground kivas still survive as testaments to a spiritual space deeply connected to cycles of farming and celestial observation. The arrangement of buildings and plazas demonstrates their advanced planning and ability to adapt to harsh terrain. Their mastery of nature is also evident in water channels and irrigation ditches that collected and managed scarce desert water. Each cliff dwelling was more than a shelter from the wind, dust, and wild animals. It was the product of building expertise and careful calculations of sunlight and temperature, providing a sustainable habitat for generations. Artifacts and decorations found within these sites reflect a rich material life and a tradition of trade with neighboring groups. Another remarkable aspect of this civilization was its sophistication in astronomy and timekeeping. By tracking the positions of the sun, moon, and stars, the ancient Puebloans determined the timing of agricultural cycles and annual festivals. Carved symbols on rocks and ceremonial objects express their cosmological beliefs and show how natural knowledge and religion were integrated into everyday life. Yet by the 13th century, the once densely populated settlements of the ancestral Puebloans were suddenly abandoned. Archaeological evidence indicates a process of mass migration lasting decades. Changing climate brought drought, declining crops, and potential conflict between different groups, destabilizing society. When the environment could no longer sustain life, these communities left behind their ancestral heritage and moved south and southeast in search of safer, more fertile lands. Today, the legacy of the ancient Puebloans lives on in the culture and traditions of their descendants, who continue to preserve knowledge passed down for millennia. Their rise and disappearance stand as proof of a society that knew how to adapt, create, and ultimately was compelled to move on in the face of nature's challenges. Sanxingdui. On the Sichuan Plain, the ancient city of Sanxingdui was once a major center of Chinese civilization more than 3,000 years ago. Its earthen and brick walls, ceremonial areas, and large-scale bronze and jade workshops established Sanxingdui's unique position in the history of technical and social organization. The city walls not only demarcated living space, but also showcased the ability to control labor and resources, reflecting a deeply stratified society where the ruling class presided over sacrificial rituals and controlled the distribution of goods and tribute from surrounding areas. Modern surveys and excavations have revealed thousands of bronze, jade, and ceramic artifacts, the most spectacular being the giant bronze masks and intricately cast objects with decorative styles unseen in contemporary cultures. The bronze working skills at Sanxingdui surpassed most other ancient Chinese centers, while the tools and jade jewelry reveal refined artistry and a deep understanding of material structure. The Sanxingdui community flourished from the 12th to 11th centuries BCE, but signs of daily life disappeared suddenly after a major geological event. Studies of strata and sediments suggest an earthquake or landslide altered the flow of the Min River, cutting off the city's water supply. The collapse of the ecosystem and irrigation led to the decline of the center of power. Residents were forced to migrate, abandoning their treasures and valuable objects, which were buried deep in sacrificial pits. Sanxingdui has long been the subject of many theories about its origins and disappearance, but to this day, its belief systems and connections to neighboring civilizations remain unsolved mysteries. The combination of technical achievement and geological change created a unique chapter in the social evolution of the Yangtze River Basin and left a trove of artifacts for modern archaeology to continue exploring. The mysteries of the underground world, from legend to archaeological reality. Stories of the underground world have always captivated the human imagination, from ancient legends to modern archaeological discoveries. The hollow Earth theory is a prime example of early attempts to explain planetary structure through pre-scientific reasoning. In the late 17th century, thinkers like Edmund Halley proposed a planet with multiple hollow shells, each with its own atmosphere, and the possibility of life within. This idea drew attention from naturalists and even became part of popular culture throughout the 19th century. However, the development of geophysics, seismic surveys, and deep drilling proved that the Earth consists of crust, mantle, and solid liquid core, leaving no space large enough for an inner world, as described in legend. Still, the enduring appeal of this idea serves as a classic example of the boundary between imagination and scientific proof. Beyond metaphysical theories, archaeology has provided concrete evidence for the construction of underground systems since ancient times. In China, discoveries at Yongqing village revealed a vast network of war tunnels dating to the Song dynasty. These tunnels were not only shelters during war, but also served for defense and counterattack. Their complex design, with secret passages and features for long-term underground living such as gates, heating systems, and functional rooms, demonstrates the organizational and engineering skills of ancient Chinese society during extended military conflict. In modern times, the underground world remains both a practical reality and the stuff of legend. In Canada and Britain, many tunnel networks and subterranean infrastructures were built for medical or civilian purposes. For instance, the Lakeshore Psychiatric Hospital in Ontario is famous for its tunnels connecting buildings, once used for moving people and supplies in harsh conditions. Stories of mysterious activities, unexplained disappearances, and strange phenomena in these tunnels have created a lasting aura of mystery. In Britain, the World War II-era underground shelters in London once served as refuge and as strategic command centres, showing the real role of underground spaces in key moments of history. Today, these sites are both scientific objects of study and sources of inspiration for countless theories and films about worlds beneath the Earth's surface. Overall, stories of the underground world, from hollow Earth legends to ancient war tunnels and modern subways, reflect humanity's drive to explore and control what lies beyond everyday sight. They also illustrate the shift from myth to empirical knowledge, from collective imagination to scientific verification, in our journey to understand the physical world and human history. The Kingdom of Aksum. Along the northern slopes of today's Ethiopia and Eritrea, a civilization once rose to become a mighty empire, the Kingdom of Aksum. The rise of Aksum is closely tied to major shifts in trade and economy in the Horn of Africa during the early centuries of the Common Era. Thanks to its strategic position at the crossroads of overland and maritime routes, Aksum not only controlled fertile highland lands, but also maintained a vast trade network connecting Rome and India. As early as the 1st century, Aksum appeared in the records of Greek and Roman merchants and was described as East Africa's leading trading center. At ports like Adulis on the Red Sea, ships would bring ivory, gold, and goods from deep within the continent to trade with products from the Mediterranean and the East. This bustling exchange enabled Aksum to develop a merchant aristocracy and centralized administration, while fostering close ties between indigenous groups and foreign merchant communities. Aksum's most distinctive hallmark is its ability to adapt and innovate. The empire developed its own currency, minting coins bearing royal images and religious symbols, one of the rarest features in ancient sub-Saharan Africa. Political power was reinforced by the spread of Christianity, which from the 4th century onward became the kingdom's official religion, making Aksum the first state in the region to do so. The fusion of secular and religious power made Aksum a new cultural center of East Africa. Aksum's golden age lasted until about the 7th century. The civilization's legacy includes not only ancient cities and coinage, but also grand stone structures, most notably the towering stele of Aksum, carved with intricate motifs and still puzzling archaeologists as to their true purpose. Some of these stelae rise over 20 meters high. Their elaborate carvings are testament to the development of a centralized, highly organized society. Aksum's decline was the result of a series of intertwined upheavals. The same trade routes that once brought prosperity became a disadvantage when new powers from the Arabian Peninsula gained control of Red Sea commerce. Competition from neighboring kingdoms and a series of long conflicts eroded central power and fractured the state. Meanwhile, climate shifts in the 6th and 7th centuries altered the highland soil, leading to reduced agricultural yields and forcing people to migrate to higher, more reliable sources of water. The collapse of Aksum did not happen overnight, but unfolded over centuries. The empire gradually lost its position, its capital was abandoned, and a great void appeared in the annals of ancient African history. Today, archaeologists continue to excavate the old city and its surroundings, hoping to uncover more evidence about the social structure and true causes of the fall of one of the greatest empires the continent ever saw. The remaining stelae stand as silent reminders of a time when Axum was a flourishing center in the global trade network, now faded into legend and historical mystery. The Great Earthquake of California. Along the western coast of North America, the Cascadia subduction zone quietly accumulates energy from the shifting of tectonic plates. This boundary, where the Juan de Fuca Plate meets the North American Plate, runs from the waters off Vancouver Island down to Northern California. It is here that some of history's most powerful earthquakes have struck, giving rise to the specter known as the Big One. Geological studies and historical data indicate that these great earthquakes occur in Cascadia roughly every 500 years. The last major event happened in 1700 with a magnitude of 9 on the Richter scale. That quake not only shook the entire region, but also generated a tsunami that swept across the Pacific, leaving its mark in the oral histories of indigenous peoples and the written records of the Japanese. Since then, strain has continued to build along the fault, steadily approaching the threshold for a massive slip between the plates. What worries scientists is the inevitability of the Big One. Modern GPS measurements confirm that the area's crust is continually compressed and ready to release energy at any moment. If it happens, the consequences for densely populated regions could be catastrophic. Homes, transport infrastructure, and communication systems would all face the risk of widespread destruction. In addition, a tsunami triggered by sudden plate movement beneath the sea could strike the entire coast, causing damage far beyond any current estimates. Though scientists agree on the likelihood of a major earthquake, no current forecasting methods can pinpoint exactly when it will occur. This is one of geology's inherent limitations, much like being unable to predict which breath will burst a balloon already stretched to its limit. The only thing humans can do is to prepare, strengthen buildings, build early warning systems, and foster public awareness about safety in the face of a disaster that could come at any time. The prospect of the Big One is not just a warning of nature's power, but also a test of society's ability to adapt, forecast, and defend itself in the modern era. Sunken ruins off the coast of Naples. Off the coast of Naples, modern archaeology has documented the presence of sunken structures, most notably the remains of a temple belonging to the Nabateans, the famed merchant people who built the city of Petra on the Arabian Peninsula. This temple was constructed right along a crucial Mediterranean trade route and stands as physical evidence of the Nabateans' long-term presence and economic activity in major Roman ports. Stratigraphic studies and recovered samples from the temple area reveal a close connection between the Nabateans and the Romans, not just in goods exchange, but also in religious forms, with statues and construction materials blending local techniques and imported know-how. This development reflects the Nabatean trade network, once stretching deep into the Mediterranean, crossing traditional boundaries between East and West, while also hinting at potential conflicts with other communities or Roman authorities as policies shifted. The discovery of a buried and collapsed temple beneath layers of marine sediment raises questions about why the Nabateans disappeared from the area. Some theories suggest that political upheavals or economic pressure from Rome led to the collapse, forcing the Nabateans to withdraw or assimilate into the local population. This episode has been echoed in popular culture, often linked with images of ancient temples and treasure hunting legends like Indiana Jones, yet the actual historical role of the Nabatean community in Naples still awaits clarification through further excavation. From a scientific perspective, these ruins are not just architectural heritage, but also a data source on interregional connections and the impact of trade on social structures in the ancient Mediterranean. The sunken structures off Naples have become part of the map of transcontinental trade centers, reflecting a period of both development and conflict among ancient civilizations in the region. The oldest rocks on Earth. The study of Earth's oldest rocks is a central subject in modern planetary science. In the northwestern tundra of Canada, the Acasta Gneiss Belt and nearby rock formations are considered a natural archive of planetary history. Here, scientists have discovered zircon crystals more than 4.3 billion years old, with some fragments nearly as old as the planet itself. These zircon grains serve as black boxes, preserving information about early environments, chemical composition, and the cycle of crust formation across billions of years of evolution. Zircon is recognized as the most stable mineral under harsh geological conditions, able to survive multiple melting events while retaining its uranium-lead isotopic signature. By analyzing the radioactive decay of uranium to lead in zircon, geologists can determine the absolute ages of ancient rocks and trace the origins of Earth's first continental crust. Research shows that within a few 100 million years of Earth's formation from the primordial dust cloud, the planet already had a solid crust and may have supported conditions for the emergence of early microbial life. Beyond simply dating rocks, scientists also extract chemical information, such as oxygen isotope ratios and traces of light elements, to reconstruct early climate and the possibility of liquid water on the surface. Some zircon crystals even contain tiny carbon inclusions that could hint at the biological activity of ancient microbes or natural organic processes. Besides their importance to geology and paleobiology, studies of ancient rocks in Canada are central to theories about the formation of rocky planets in our solar system. By comparing the chemical composition, age, and isotopic structure of zircon from Earth, the Moon, and meteorites, scientists can piece together complex links between the evolutionary paths of different celestial bodies. These models help explain the diversity and evolution of planetary systems and assess the likelihood of life arising elsewhere. Research projects on ancient zircon in Canada and South Africa have already changed our understanding of the age of continents, the rate of crust cooling, and the appearance of the first oceans. By connecting geological and biological evidence, we move ever closer to answering the great question: how did life begin on Earth? Under what conditions? And might these processes be common in the universe? From these tiny zircon grains, the stages of geological activity and the potential for primordial life on other planets are slowly being decoded under the light of modern science. If you find these mysterious stories fascinating, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss out on our next discoveries. We look forward to seeing you in the next video.